This is Gemara Avodah Zarah Daf Chof Aleph. I'm rolling on Chof Amid Beis. We're approximately on the 8th wide line, the two dots. Ein moichin lahen. You're not allowed to sell them plants attached to the ground. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan moichlem ilan. You're allowed to sell them a tree, a guy. Amanas lakuts. Ve koi eitz, and then they chop it down. Divi Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir Omer, no. Ein moichin lahen. You can't sell it to them. Ella. Rather, what are you allowed to sell to them? Kitzutza, only a tree that is already chopped down. Shachas, fodder. Amanas ligzois, vigazas divi Rabbi Yehuda. You're allowed to sell it to them and they'll cut it down, says Rabbi Yehuda. And again, Rabbi Meir, no, imerchan lehen. Rather, what? Ella, gizuza. Only once it is already cut down. Third case, kama, standing grain. Amanas ligsar, v'koyte divi Rabbi Yehuda. You're allowed to sell it to a guy in condition he cuts down and they well divi Rabbi Yehuda. Only once it's already cut down. And in classical Gemara sense, why do we have to have three different examples of the same machlekes between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda? Says the Gemara Sricha. In the first case, Rabbi Meir, even the Lord Pasin Mashile. That's Rabbi Meir says you're allowed to sell it. Why? Because since he's going to lose nothing, we're afraid he's going to leave it there. And that's the reason why Rabbi Meir says you only let us sell it once it's cut off. But when it comes to the case, the third case of the standing grain, the chimashle pasid is going to get ruined. Perhaps Rameir is my day, Rabbi Yehuda, you let us sell it even once it's attached. I would think we should the reason why you let us sell it is why? Because there's no visible benefit by leaving it attached to the ground. The animal the fodder has an absolute and visible benefit. Maybe Rav Yehuda's moed Rameir that you have to cut it down before you sell it. And if we said the case, in the case of the fodder alone, the shachas, I would have thought, that's why we need all three cases. Ibayilo asks the Gemara, that is an animal they're going to shecht. What's the reason in the case of the plants, the tree, the fodder of Yehuda allowed to sell them is because sad in the guy's rishos, and therefore he can't really leave it standing. Given the Rishus say he gets the actual animal it's standing in his rishos, perhaps Mashile is going to leave it around. You sell him an animal, exact same machlekes. The Rabbi Yehuda, Meir, Mein, Meichel, no, Ella, Shchuta, so the same machlekes applies even to a behema. Continues the Gemara. In Mishnah, in the bottom of Chav base, you're not allowed to rent to a guy houses in Eretz Yisrael. And Pasha, you can't rent them fields in Eretz Yisrael. Bisur, Ubisuria. And in Syria, as we turn over to Chav Aleph, Amid Aleph, Maschirin Lohem Batim, you're allowed to rent them houses, Avaloi Sadais, but not fields. Ubechul, Echotz Laretz, Moichrin Lohem Batim, and Umaschirin Sadais, Divi Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yesi Omer. Eretz Yisrael, Maschirin Lohem Batim, Avaloi Sadais. Syria, Moichin Batin, Maschirin Sadis. B'chotz Laaretz, Moichin Elu. So you have to understand the fine nuances of chilik between Batim and Sadais, Eretz Yisrael, Chutz Laaretz, Syria, etc. Concludes the Mishnah. Even when we said you're allowed to rent a guy, we're not talking about the guy's going to live there. But rather, why not? They're going to bring idols into the house. And Shene'amar lo shavita ival beisecha. Chol makom lo yascher loy. And excuse me, and chol makom lo yascher loy. You're not allowed to rent him as a merchatz. Why? Shenikra al Shammai, because the bathhouse is called by his name. Everyone knows the Yiddish owner, and then it's going to be owned by a guy, and that is not going to be allowed. So we continue straight into the Gemara and ask the Gemara, I don't understand. My ein tzarich loymar sadis. Why was it so pashit? You can't sell a field. It has two reasons. Number one, Number one, as we learned in the previous chaniya karka, that the guy is now holding on to karka. And the chad, now you can't give him a meiser, but this field is owned by a guy. If that is true, the same too by a house. Chada Chanias Karka, the guy owns the land, and the Chada to come Afkale Mimizuzah, no din mezuzah. So what's the chilik between a house and a sadeh? Why is it posh and you can't tell a sadeh according to Rameir? Amar Misharshia, mezuzah no, chayvas hadaru. Mezuzah doesn't have any shayches. Because once an area is owned by a guy, there's no chiyam mezuzah anymore. Because all chiyam mezuzah is only based on the dar, the one who's living there. Therefore, that would not be a reason, and therefore that's the reason that a sadeh has two reasons versus a house which has one. Ubesuria maschirim batin. The Mishnah continued and said in Besuria, allowed to rent houses and not fields. Says Go Maishna Mechira Delay. Why not let us sell to Misha Mechira Eretz Yisrael? She's selling Eretz Yisrael. Yachim Meschiras Nam. He negs they should make Gzeira on renting. Explains the Gemara. He goofa Gzeira. Vananekum negs Gzeira. No, it's goofa Gzeira about selling them, and therefore we're not going to make another Gzeira. On top of that, ask the Gemara Baschira Sadeh Tibisuria. Renting a field in Syria is the next level, which is what Gzeri. We make such a Gzera. Explains the Gemara. Hasam Lav Gzeri. Why is it not a Gzera? Because Havar Kivish Yachid Shmei Kivosh. And therefore, so did this Beitarti goes Bei Rabbanon, Batim plus Beitarti Lagazu Bei Rabbanon. That's going to be the Chelik. When it comes to the field, you have two Isurim. There's the Gzera. Comes to the house, we're not going to. B'chotzarts v'chulu, says the Gemara. Sadeh dis Beitarti Nachamol goes Bei Rabbanon, Batlas Beitarti goes Bei Rabbanon. Rav Yisrael, Rav Yisrael, Maschin Labati, let us rent houses in Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara, my time, what's the reason? What's the reason? This is Beitarti goes Bei Rabbanon, Batlas Beitarti goes Bei Rabbanon, the same Shaka Beitarti. My time, the exact opposite sheet. That the kivash yachal is not called a kivash. Kivash of a sudden it's made hard to go. We're about to lay the guard. The low gods are bay rabban. Ubechol ma'ichin. My time, kiva dem berachak loy gazrinos. Now we have a new reason. When it comes to areas outside of Eretz Yisrael, why you let us sell it? Explains the Gemara. Since it's far from Eretz Yisrael, we don't make a gezerah that if you sell this, you're going to end up selling Eretz Yisrael. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Halacha ki Rav Yosi. Amar Rav Yosef. Ubelvad sheyasenu shchuna. But one thing explains the Gemara. Says Rav Yosi, you can't make it into a neighborhood. You might be able to sell something to a guy, but you cannot sell several houses to them. V'kam b'shchuna. Tana in shchuna b'chusa mishleisha b'nei adam. V'leicha shtelma azal hay Yisrael. Umazin acharakum. V'azal heyech. Umazal letrei. Why are we concerned that one guy's going to sell it to one and then others are going to come and sell others? Amar Abaye alfana mafakdinon alfana dilafana loy mifakdinon. Says Abaye, that is too far. A blind man, a lifnei mifakdinon, a lifnei the lifnei loy mifakdinon. That we're not concerned about. The end of the Mishnah says the Gemara, but you never let us sell. The Mishnah taught us you never let us sell them as a base. Dira says the Gemara Michlal, the last line. It sounds like there are places that the guy is not going to live. But we turn over to Chaval from Beis and ask the Gemara. Excuse me, not ask, and the Gemara explains, what does it mean that the Stama, they're not going to live there? This is Ustama ki Rabbi Meir, di Rabbi Yosi b'chol dochli mogri. According to Rabbi Yosi, a house can be rented anywhere, inside, outside, in Syria, etc., and there's not going to be a concern, so the Mishnah must be Ramir. The Mishnah concluded a bathhouse. Tanya, Rashbago, Imer lo yischar ademer chatzei lakum. Why? The problem is, everyone knows that this is Yankel's bathhouse, and there's a guy doing malacha in there in Shabbos and Yantif. Aval, however, says the Gemara, Lakusi Mai. What is the din to a kusi? Are you allowed to sell it to a kusi or not? Shari, it's mutter. Kusi explains the Gemara. Why? Why are we worried that you do malacha chol hamayit? Explains the Gemara. We're also allowed to do work on chol hamayit at some level, something that is necessary for our yomtiv, and therefore there's no gezerah. But renting a field to guy, what's halacha shari? It's motor. My taima arisa say kovid. The reason is because the sharecropper is allowed to do his thing. Merchatz nami, amrin arisa risase kavid. Why don't we say the same thing? What is the chilik? Why by a field are we allowing the guy to work there, but not by a bathhouse? Explains the Gemara, fundamental yisoid. Arisa the merchatz avdi inshi. People do not make their bathhouse into an arisos, and therefore you don't have that whole heter. This is one of the largest sugyas in a Shabbos about what you're allowed to rent, what you're not allowed to rent. But we'll stop over here. B'siyata dishmai.